Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another episode of Form Check Friday. A couple things right off the top here. We did end up changing our seminar schedule. We're not doing any seminars in France. Unfortunately, I apologize to anybody who was registered for that. We just kind of couldn't make the financials of it all line up. So what we've done with our time instead is we're going to be doing one seminar at a gym called Elysium in Edinburgh and another seminar at Physique and Power in Glasgow. So it's going to be the weekend of May 4th and 5th. And we're going to be up in Scotland. So if you guys are interested, head over to calgarybarbell.com, click on the coaching shop tab where the form checks are and where our free program is, and you can look at all the options there. As well, if you're near Basingstoke, we're going to be doing a full 2-day seminar, very involved, lots of hands-on stuff the weekend before. That being said, we're going to kind of dive right into it. If you guys are interested in getting your technique checked out, go ahead and head over to your email, take a video, and send it on to us at formcheckfriday@gmail.com. Make sure to send it to formcheckfriday@gmail.com. I get a fair number of form check submissions still, just to other sort of random email accounts associated with our brand, but the address we would like you to send them to is formcheckfriday@gmail.com. All right, so with that being said, we're going to dive right into this. For anybody who's new to this, what we're going to do is we're going to take a bunch of people's submitted videos of them lifting. We're going to put them up on this screen here, and I'm going to give you guys some technique advice to hopefully help you become more efficient and better at the power lifts. So without further ado, let's get this thing started. Our first submission comes from Eric Haincheck, and I'm just going to turn off the monitor here. Eric, there we go. Boom, there we are. All right, Eric. Let's take a look at what we're doing here, man. Perfect. So Eric's doing some squats here. I think these are paused squats, he said. He had some hamstring issues, felt that he was getting a little bit too far back on his heels, and that may have contributed. Now, honestly, everything looks pretty good to me. I think we could probably lock the knees a little better at the top, but it's paused squat, so it's not really the biggest deal. Your positioning out of the bottom, your torso angle looks really good. It's not changing as you initiate the drive out of the bottom. And that is one thing that we will often see. So in the absence of our man here making any real mistakes, what we're going to do... Oh, that's not working. There we go. We're going to try to illustrate for you guys what it would look like if he was making a mistake. Now, a lot of times we've got this angle here, and we've got the angle of the femur there. So a lot of times what will happen when somebody sort of erroneously does a pause squat, and especially with pause squat and pin squat, the issue is that we'll see these hips shoot up early. Now, actually, we're not seeing that here. So Eric is a really good example of how to keep those knees forward to make sure that you're getting sort of enough drive from the knee extension as we initiate the lift, not seeing the knees shoot back. We're not seeing the butt shoot up. So honestly, Eric, those look really, really great. I don't really think that you should change anything about those. I think you should keep doing your thing because those look really good, man. Looks solid to me. All right, we'll move on to our next one, which is from Léon Pierre Dufour, and he's doing some deadlifts. These are on YouTube, so I'm just gonna have to swing the window over. All right, so we're doing some sumo deadlifts here. Positioning looks pretty good. I think we could probably get a little bit earlier lock of the knees. I think we could get the trunk through a little more at lockout. So that's sort of the top position of lockout, and I think we should try to extend to get those shoulders back a little more so we're a little more in line with the rest of the body. And part of that's going to be just squeezing those glutes through a little better. So just squeeze your buns a little more at the top and that's going to help you stay on the sort of heel of your foot a little bit better. Looks like your lockout's a little bit forward. You might get called for a soft lockout for shoulders on that, simply because you're stopping a little bit short of full hip extension. Now the lat and back positioning looks pretty good. We're maintaining a nice torso angle off the floor. And that's probably the biggest thing, is just finishing the lockout a little bit better. So I think you could definitely get a little bit more hip extension at the top to make sure that your shoulders are in line with your hips, knees are locked, and that you're gonna get those white lights come time for competition. Our next submission comes from Nathan Cullen. And Nathan's doing some bench press here. Final set of a 5x5 in the 5-3-1 program. He said he used to have some shoulder pain, but it's mostly gone now, so good on you. Good. That's always a good thing to hear. So let's see what's going on with your bench here, Nathan. All right. So first off, I think we could get a little bit more set up. I think that we could get the shoulder blades driven down a little better. We could get the shoulder blades pulled back a little bit better. We could get a little bit more leg drive going on. Looks like we're kind of loose here, and it might be a product, kind of or a circumstance of the style of bench you have. It might be a little bit tough to get much tighter than that on here. I'm gonna see if I can make this just a little bit bigger. All right, so first off, when we set up, I want you to try to get those shoulder blades down a little more. Get those shoulder blades squeezed back a little bit more. And what I mean by back is pull them together behind your back, like you're pinching something between your shoulder blades. I also want you to use your feet to help push yourself up the bench this way and create what's called leg drive. And that should allow you to make sure that you're maintaining all that shoulder position we just talked about. Next, with the press itself, I want you to try to be a little bit more controlled. You can see that when that bar hits your chest, and I mean hits because we're not controlling it all the way through the range of motion. We're coming down, the bar's kind of dumping into you and hitting. Now, ideally, what I would like to see, even if you're gonna do touch and go bench press, is control right to the bottom. Make sure we're getting a nice light touch. Think about bringing your chest up to the bar and just touching your t-shirt, as opposed to letting the bar kind of smack into you like that. We've got a little bit of an inconsistent bar path, both on the way down and on the way up, and as we press, those shoulders are rolling forward. So the big takeaways, I think, are going to be to set up a little bit tighter shoulder blades and leg drive, and the next thing is going to be more control in the bottom of the range of motion. So as you get to your chest, as that bar comes in and is within those last 3 inches before you touch your chest, don't let it drop and hit you. Control it down, nice light touch on the chest, and control it all the way through the range of motion. Hopefully that helps you out, man. Our next one's from Dennis, and Dennis is from Belgium, which is always really cool when you guys are submitting. If you're from somewhere that isn't Canada, or even if you're from Canada, maybe just mention where you're from, because I think it's really cool to see where everybody's from, and you know, it makes for some interesting sort of, I don't know. It's interesting to see where people come from and where people are watching from, and pay attention to our stuff from. So yeah, definitely go ahead and attach your place of origin. So Dennis is doing some sumo deadlifts here as well. These look really solid so far. Good starting position. We're not seeing the hips shoot up as he initiates the lift. We're seeing the lats packed down. We're seeing it sort of initiated with knee extension. We're starting with a bit of a push off the floor, and we're seeing a good full lockout. Feet are staying firmly planted. These look really good. Excellent, excellent. So with Dennis here, I don't think there's a whole lot to critique, but again, I will sort of point out some of the things that he's doing right here. So again, we have this angle between the torso and the femur, which is something we watch a lot of the times when we're looking at the efficiency of somebody's lift. A lot of times if we see these hips shoot up and the knees start to straighten and come back before the bar leaves the floor, that's usually indicative of a bit of a power leak in losing position when we start the deadlift. But in Dennis's case, and I can't slow-mo it because it's on YouTube, but You'll notice that as he starts, his hips sort of tense up, the lats come down, which is another big thing that I always sort of advocate getting enough of in the sumo deadlift, is that what's called scapular depression. Scapula being the shoulder blades, depression being the movement of bringing them down your back towards your butt. And he's doing a really good job of that as well. We're not seeing the shoulders roll forward as he goes through the lift. We're seeing everything kind of stay nice and tight off the floor, which is usually where people start to break down, start to have technique issues. So good on you, Dennis. This is kind of a cool episode. We're getting a lot of really good lifts in, and I can show you guys. We've had a few people, message in or DM me and say, it'd be really cool if you showed us what lifts should look like, or how to correct these things, what they look like when they're done well. So it's kind of a cool opportunity here to show you guys some of the things that I often point out and say, this is what's wrong, this is what you have to do. Well, this is kind of what it looks like. Both, let's see, Dennis and Eric had, just really good sort of illustrations of what things should look like. So next we have some squats from Ryan, and this is going to be our last submission today. All right, man. Let's see what's going on here. So Ryan's doing some squats. Not really any context on this. Just said he wanted to submit a video. So first off, looks a little bit high. Looks like if you're going to be competing, we're going to need to get a little bit deeper. Now, depth when it comes to competing in powerlifting means this point here, the crease of the hip, needs to be below the top of the knee. And as you can see there, it's definitely above. So that's the first thing I take into consideration. Looks like you're in a pretty narrow stance. Might be a little easier for you to get depth if you're a little wider. Sometimes that can be the case. Let's see what else here. Looks like we're getting a little bit sort of rolled forward by the bar in the upper back, which could be a bit of a function of having the bar a little bit too high up on your back. So the two things I would work on is maybe a little bit of a wider stance, definitely getting a little bit deeper, and playing with a bit of a wider stance, which I think is going to allow you to be more comfortable getting a little bit deeper. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Most of the rest of this is pretty good, and I think we'll kind of fall in place if we can get those sort of main things fixed. And that's another thing maybe I'll just talk quickly about, if I can find my cursor, is to try not to over inundate people with too many cues. Now, whether you're a coach or an athlete, it can be really tough to think about too many things at once. In terms of, okay, if I have this gigantic laundry list of things that I need to try to do while I'm lifting, especially under heavy load, it can be less than productive, or even, detrimental to a lifter's technique and ability to execute if they're over cued. So we want to make sure that, if you're a novice lifter, or if you're coaching a novice lifter, one of the things that I find useful is taking something that's sort of a top tier priority when it comes to fixing their technique, and have the lifter focus on that. Focus on one thing at a time, or maybe two cues at a time, something like that, and have them nail those things down first before you start getting more and more nitpicky down the line and starting to do some things that are maybe a little bit more experimental, playing with toe angle, playing with hand position and wrist position and some of those kinds of things. The biggest thing is, first off, we need to fulfill the requirements of competition, which is going to be squatting to depth, locking out your deadlifts. Those kinds of things are going to be your top priority coaching cues. Beyond that, we want to work on becoming more efficient. So if we see things like the hips shooting up, we see the knees caving in some cases anyways, those things are often signs that we can be more efficient. And then down the road, it's okay, how can we tweak those tiny little things to optimize? So yeah, just a bit of a sort of quick insight into maybe a tiered approach to coaching and to cueing lifters and their technique. So hopefully that lends you guys a little bit of insight into how I coach. Hope you guys got something out of this video. If you have any questions about what I said about these lifters, or maybe you saw something that I missed, go ahead and leave it in the comments below, and I'd love to have a discussion with you guys. Leave a like if you liked it. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you guys want to submit, FORMCHECKFRIDAY@gmail.com, and we're going to be back to creating some really cool content here right away. We were a little busy, working really, really hard on the doc right now, so a lot of what we're doing right now is Form Check Fridays, training updates and that kind of stuff. We'll have a meet video coming out. It's probably going to be out by, no, this is today. We'll have a meet video coming out soon for Nationals recently. And that's about it for me. All right, guys. Take care, and we'll see you next time.